statement. And so we have to realize that even though it's in the name of Ashwapati, the great sage, it is Sri Aurobindo and his experiences. And I've talked to you previously that Sri Aurobindo was researching more diligently than any scientist in his laboratory. He would see something, he would experience it, and if it was not true, he would throw it out. And he would go higher and higher in his experience. So we're going to see, I'm going to go back a little bit because we have to see a little what he could do now at this stage. There is a Canto 5 also. This is Canto 3. Canto 5 is the experiences of Sri Aurobindo when he's fully experienced and he's fully an avatar. So now it's just the beginning, but he's realizing so many things. It's extraordinary. So we begin in 4 minutes, and the people will be coming.
Certainly looking forward to your getting it. Did you want to look at it?
And the others will come and they can see it.
30 at the break. Hello.
Hi, Cesar. This is Mark and his wife Anne. Cesar.
Nice to see you.
She's from Turkey, right?
Yes.
From Turkey.
You from here? Yeah. You born here? Wow.
Not in Aurobindo.
France?
No.
Not in
In Mumbai.
In Bombay? Okay.
In Bombay.
And when did you arrive here?
No, 1.5 years ago.
So the retreat starts on Monday. Monday through Thursday. Monday?
I don't know if it's on Monday.
Yes, it's Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock. I think.
What day?
Monday.
Monday?
Monday, yes. Monday the 5th.
This coming Monday, the 5th, yes. Yeah. So it goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
3 days.
I don't know, he's not going to do Friday? Only 4 days?
Only, no, 3 days, I would say.
3 days,
I think so.
okay.
I think so.
And this is Aishwarya, and I think you all know her.
Yeah. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. Happy to see you.
Smiling there, relaxing.
Lots of flowers in my bag.
You have to leave it open, leave the door open, just for someone. The Ukrainian boy said he would come.
Yeah. It's open. When he comes, he can
Yeah.
open it.
Yeah.
There we are. Hello.
He's Mark and he spoke about Obi last time.
He spoke about? falling out of what experience. Yes.
This is Mark's book, The Experience of Reality. And I don't think you've seen it, Cesar. And have you seen it? Okay, so you have a look.
It's not only about this topic.
You can talk just a few minutes about it, Mark.
I wouldn't interfere with your presentation. The best is Savitri.
Okay. So it's 6:30, we'll begin. This is the Book of Beginnings. We're still in the Book of Beginnings. Canto 3, the Yoga of the Soul's Release. And we see here that Ashwapati, or Sri Aurobindo, has already this huge capacity to see the truth. One glance could separate the true and false, or raise its rapid torch fire in the dark, to check the claimants crowding through mind's gates. So you see, these claimants are these lower beings who try to get in to us and warp our consciousness. But he can see them. And he says they are covered by the forged signatures of the gods. We know that all gods are not good. There is a whole history that Mother tells us in the beginning, when she sent down these forms of love, that love turned into hate. And there were 4 of them, and they saw how much power they had, and they turned to the opposite. And then Mother had to send a new group to fight them. So he is able to also detect the magic bride in her disguise. And that is the Divine Mother. Or scan the apparent face of thought and life. So up to this point, we are seeing the power that is now in Ashwapati, whose inner vision becomes almost all-powerful. And now we begin with today's passage. Oft inspiration with her lightning feet, a sudden messenger from the all-seeing tops, traversed the soundless corridors of his mind, and bringing her rhythmic sense of hidden things, a music transcending mortal speech. So we have these 4 lines to look at very carefully. Inspiration, when it comes like lightning feet. And I'm reminded here of Alexandra David Neal. When she was in Tibet, she was dressed as a man because no women were allowed in Tibet. And she would sit on a log and watch the mailmen going to deliver mail 400 miles away. But they were 1 foot above the ground, and that's how they could do it. And one day a tiger came right up to her, and she looked in its eyes, and he gently backed away. She had such power, and she knew Mother. She actually knew Mother and met Mother. So, oh dear, I messed up again. Okay, there we are. So inspiration comes with lightning feet, and it's a sudden messenger from the all-seeing tops. These all-seeing tops are the worlds that are above, which you have seen many times. And so inspiration descends from these to those heights of consciousness and knowledge and enters those people who are ready. You know, a great mind once said, the things that are impossible to understand can only be understood through poetry.
Who was that great mind, Narad? Who was that great?
I don't recall anymore. Traverse the soundless corridors of his mind. So he's already silenced his mind completely. And there are no thoughts coming into his mind. He achieved this with Bhaskar Lele actually in one day. He was able to stop all thoughts coming into his mind. So he had an empty mind. And I think I told you last week that some of his disciples asked him, give me that empty mind. And he did. And they came back to him a week later and said, I'm going crazy. Take it away. So this great soundless corridor of his mind, he hears in that the rhythmic sense of hidden things. And I was so moved when you told us, Mark, about the symphony after symphony that you heard. It just touched me so deeply. Music, huh? And I heard one time, for only less than a minute, the music of the spheres. And there's nothing on earth to compare with it. So, a music spoke, transcending mortal speech. As if from a golden phial of the all bliss, a phial is a small bottle that holds liquids. And there is a rhythmic sense of hidden things. They come to us through intuition, and then this immortal line where music can speak and transcend mortal speech. A joy of light, a joy of sudden sight, a rapture of the thrilled, undying word, poured into his heart as into an empty cup. A repetition of God's first delight, creating in a young and virgin time. And all creations stem from this inspiration's descent of light and joy and rapture into the heart or into the mind as into an empty cup. In a brief moment caught, a little space, all knowledge packed into great wordless thoughts, lodged in the expectant stillness of his depths. What are they? A crystal of the ultimate absolute, a portion of the inexpressible truth, revealed by silence to the silent soul. The intense creatrix in his stillness wrought. There's a semicolon after that because he has more to tell us about this intense creatrix, whom we call Prakriti or the Shakti or the Divine Mother. And Sri Aurobindo uses the word here as an adjective. Intense creatrix. Her power, fallen speechless, grew more intimate. And now Ashwapati understands that inspiration's power is more intimate because there are no words. No words are needed. She looked upon the seen and the unseen, unforeseen. Unguessed domains she made her native field. Somehow I think that this was meant for you tonight because it's so much unguessed domains. So this intuition becomes her native field, and it gathers together all vision of all these worlds into a single ray. Now he says to us, as when the eyes stare at an invisible point, till through the intensity of one luminous spot, an apocalypse of a world of images enters into the kingdom of the seer. When I was young, I would sit by the railway and look at the rails, and in the distance they become one. There are two when you're looking at them, and then you look further and further, they become one. And they unite into one. An apocalypse of world of images enters into the kingdom of the seer. Now this seer is one who actually sees. And this often happens to artists, even composers. We know that Brahms said that he could go into this place and choose any of the chords, any of the melodies he wanted, and bring them down. That's amazing. And Beethoven had this also. And of course, Bach. Now, a great nude arm of splendor suddenly rose. It rent the gauze opaque of nescience, this transparent fabric just torn. It is opaque, is impenetrable by light. It's not transparent, it's not translucent, but this divine Shakti, her lifted fingers' keen, unthinkable tip, bared with a stab of flame, the closed beyond. And I think that that's the best we can understand it at the moment, unless we can be there ourselves. And I, awake in voiceless heights of trance, a mind plucking at the unimaginable, overleaping with a soul and perilous bound, the high black wall, hiding superconscience. Perilous, of course, is fraught with danger. Now, superconscience, we have to hear from Sri Aurobindo. And he says, but a third power or possibility of the infinite consciousness can be admitted. Its power of self-absorption, of plunging into itself, into a state in which self-awareness exists, but not as knowledge, and not as all knowledge. The all would then be involved in pure self-awareness, and knowledge and the inner consciousness itself would be lost in pure being. This is luminously the state which we call the superconscience in an absolute sense. Although most of what we call superconscient is in reality not that, but only a higher conscient, something that is conscious to itself and only superconscious to our own limited level of awareness. So now he's going to tell us about this divine creatrix. She broke in with inspired speech for scythe. You know what a scythe is, some of you, huh? No? A scythe is an instrument that they've been using since, well, as long as man exists, I think, to cut the grains. It has a huge blade with a handle, and you just cut all the... So this creatrix is breaking in with inspired speech for scythe, just cutting through everything, and plundered the unknowable's vast estate. Now, plundered is usually pillaged or robbed of something. And then we see the next line, which is very, very beautiful. A gleaner of infinitesimal grains of truth. A gleaner is someone who discovers something laboriously, bit by bit. And infinitesimal, of course, is incalculably minute. A sheaf binder of infinite experience. Now, a sheaf binder is one who binds or bundles these plants that have just been cut with the scythe. They bundle them up like this, and today, of course, we have machines that do that. But this is there are still many people, because wheat, rye, and rice can be bundled after reaping. So what does this great creatrix do? She pierced the guarded mysteries of world force, and her magic methods wrapped in 1,000 veils, or she gathered the lost secrets dropped by time in the dust and crannies of his mounting route. Mid old forsaken dreams of hastening mind and buried remnants of forgotten space. So this is Ashwapati now. And she is piercing for him these guarded mysteries of world force. And she has magic methods to do this, but they're wrapped in 1,000 veils. And only when we can get through that, when the mind is silence and the being is peaceful and the vital energies are very, very quiet, this can happen. And then we see that she's gathering these lost secrets dropped by time. And those lost secrets seem to be in the dust and crannies of his mounting route. Ashwapati is mounting higher and higher in his experiences. And he's seeing that these old forsaken dreams of hastening mind and these buried remnants of forgotten space, because he's a traveler between summit and abyss. She joined the distant ends, the viewless deeps, or streaked along the roads of heaven and hell, pursuing all knowledge like a questing hound. And we have this wonderful little book by Francis Thompson, The Hound of Heaven. Has anyone heard of it? Yes? Very good, very good. And so he says, he chased me down the nights and down the days. And he is, of course, this divine force. So we continue now. A reporter and scribe of hidden wisdom talk, her shining minutes of celestial speech passed through the masked office of the occult mind, transmitting, gave to prophet and to seer the inspired body of the mystic truth. Ashwapati has gone very, very high into these realms that are so far above us on this earth. And even this celestial speech in shining minutes passes through the masked office of the occult mind, because this is far above occultism. There is no sense of the occult here, because in the West we make a big thing of occultism, but in India it just means something that's not yet discovered. That's what the occult is. So, passed through the masked office of the occult mind, transmitting gave to prophet and to seer the inspired body of the mystic truth. Notice that he capitalizes the word truth here, because Sri Aurobindo, when he capitalizes something, wants us to realize that it's the essence of the thing. A recorder of the inquiry of the gods, spokesman of the silent seeings of the Supreme, she brought immortal words to mortal men. You should read some of Yeats' poetry, because this gives us some feeling of that. Now, there's much more, because above the reason's brilliant, slender curve. Now, you see, the reason, Sri Aurobindo says, is a very low thing in our inner experience. Reason and morality that we experience here does not exist in these higher realms at all. So, above the reason's brilliant, slender curve, released like radiant air dimming a moon, broad spaces of a vision without line or limit swam into his spirit's ken. So Sri Aurobindo is receiving all of these things. Ken here is knowledge or understanding. And so these immortal words that are given at times to mortal men are what creates the poets or the great literatures or even the architects that build on earth. But then he says, above the reason's brilliant, slender curve. So reason only is a slender curve, although it's brilliant. It's just a slender curve. And she releases these things like radiant air dimming a moon. Broad spaces of a vision without line or limit swam into his spirit's ken. Oceans of being met his voyaging soul, calling to infinite discovery, timeless domains of joy and absolute power stretched out, surrounded by the eternal hush. The ways that lead to endless happiness. Bared with a stab of flame. Is that correct?
Run like dream smiles.
So I've got the wrong page. It's 38.
Page 40.
40?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Along a naked curve?
Run like.
Hmm?
Page no, it should be run like dream smiles through.
What is it?
Run like dream smiles.
Page
Page 40.
40,
okay.
yeah, but I don't have that.
Maybe you didn't put those lines in this, Narad. So you continue from here, then someone can read these lines, 3 lines.
Maybe it is on the bottom.
No,
The ways that lean to.
no, you just didn't copy them. That's all.
Yeah.
No,
It
but
is
I
the
have
happiness.
oceans of being.
Yeah, this is the
Last
last
line.
Okay.
You
line is
copy the
okay.
first 3 lines. So
Okay.
can you read them, Caesar? Or you can read from the book.
It is a little bit small. Maybe it's
ran like dream smiles through meditating vasts, disclosed, stood up in a gold moment's blaze, white sun steps in the pathless infinite. We know what steppes are. They are the great, great fields in Central Asia. And we have this composition by Borodin, In the Steppes of Central Asia. Vast, vast symphony. Along a naked curve in bornless self. Now, bornless self means a self, something without any limit at all. No limit. And Sri Aurobindo tells us the self is our self-existent being. The self is being, not a being. By self is meant the conscious, essential existence, one in all. And then he tells us in the synthesis of yoga, is very important, in relation to the individual, the supreme is our own truth and highest self, that which ultimately we are in our essence, that of which we are in our manifested nature. A spiritual knowledge, moved to arrive at the true self in us, must reject, as the traditional way of knowledge rejects, all misleading appearances. It must discover that the body is not our self, our foundation of existence. It is a sensible form of the infinite. As soon as we become aware of the self, we are conscious of it as eternal, unborn, unembodied, uninvolved in its workings. It can be felt within the form of being, but also as enveloping it, as above it, surveying its embodiment from above. Adhyaksha. It is omnipresent, the same in everything, infinite and pure and intangible forever. This self can be experienced as the self of the individual, the self of the thinker, doer, enjoyer, but even so, it always has this greater character. Its individuality is at the same time a vast universality, or very readily passes into that. And the next step to that is a sheer transcendence, or a complete and ineffable passing into the absolute. The self is that aspect of the Brahman in which it is intimately felt as at once individual, cosmic, transcendent of the universe. The realization of the self is the straight and swift way towards individual liberation, a static universality, a nature transcendence. At the same time, there is a realization of self in which it is felt not only sustaining and pervading and enveloping all things, but constituting everything, and identified in a free identity with all its becomings in nature. Even so, freedom and impersonality are always the character of the self. There is no appearance of subjection to the workings of its own power in the universe. To realize the self is to realize the eternal freedom of the spirit. And that is from the Life Divine. Now, the points that run through the closed heart of things shadowed the indeterminable line that carries the everlasting through the years. Indeterminable, you can't decide anything with finality. It carries the everlasting through the years. And the everlasting here is capitalized. So it means the divine, or whatever name you want to give to him. And I continue for just a minute more, and then we'll conclude. So these points that run along this naked curve in bornless self, and note here the capital S of self, running through the closed heart of things, shadow this line that is impossible to decide or settle with finality. There is no finality to the universe or to the worlds above the universe. And it carries the everlasting, the divine, the Lord God, through the years. And then he says, the magician order of the cosmic mind. Oh, I think that's enough for today. We'll start that next week. Any questions?
I have a small question.
Yes.
This is not the last time. You spoke about the iambic pentameter.
Yes.
The entire Savitri is
Yes, is in iambic pentameter.
Is it
And
to be read like that?
no, because it would become very boring. It was the hour before the gods awake across the path of the... No, you can't read it like that.
Okay.
But you have to feel the rhythm. You have to feel the music. And you have to feel especially the mantric power of Savitri. So there are three things that we have to always remember. That Savitri is mantra. It's written so far above our small minds that we cannot understand it with this mind. We have to go very far above. It is music, divine music. And it is incredible beauty. Nothing has ever been written like this. You know that this is the longest poem written in the English language. Nearly 24,000 lines. Imagine that. And even when his eyesight was failing, he would dictate, Narad tells us, sometimes 600 lines at one time. Imagine that. We think we're doing good with 6 or 12 or 14 lines. 600 lines. So, any other questions? Okay, let's have a few moments of silence and then we'll do Om.